Sick of getting blisters? Stop slipping and just be comfortable with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Great fit, great comfort, lots of grip, and an even better price. Available now at puregripsocks.com.
Even though I did it earlier this year, there are now new options and more choices within the Nike brand. So with that in mind, in today's video, I'm going to be ranking every Nike football boot from best to worst, hopefully helping you decide which model would be best for you. All of which, by the way, you can get below their normal retail prices by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the links down below. And really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy these types of videos, don't forget to drop a like on this one and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. Not that any of these football boots are cheap, but your least expensive top-end option from the Nike brand is coming in the form of the Tiempo Legend 10 Elite with a retail price of $230. Sitting just above the Tiempo in price is going to be the Phantom GX Elite Low, as well as the Mercurial Vapor 15 Elite, both retailing for $250. Where if you're more of a mid-cut boot person, for an extra $25, you can get the Phantom GX Elite DF, as well as the Superfly 9 Elite, both of which add a collar. In the case of the Phantom GX, it also adds on a lace cover, but they retail for $275, making them the top price point within Nike's brand. And then also the Phantom Luna Elite is only available in a mid-cut variation and also retails for the same $275. If you're looking for the thinnest possible upper within Nike's lineup, look no further than the Mercurial. Whether it's the Superfly 9 or Vapor 15 Elite, both feature the exact same Vaporposit Plus synthetic material that is incredibly thin with really no extra padding whatsoever, giving you that raw barefoot sensation, but at the same time remaining remarkably pliable and pretty comfortable on foot. It also has a remarkable amount of structure considering how thin it is, with the laces tied tight, giving you that really locked-in responsive sensation and a wrap around your foot that makes the boots feel like they are connected. It has a very one-to-one experience in terms of touch on the ball, but if you've worn Mercurials in the past, you kind of have an idea of what to expect here. It's an excellent option if you're looking for that barefoot feel. If you prefer a thinner feel on the ball but also want some additional grip, the Nike Phantom Luna with its grip knit upper is going to give you what is a very similar type of feel to that of the Mercurial, maybe a touch thicker but not by much. However, its Flyknit base does end up feeling a little bit more pliable, and you get the additional grip within the ridge texturing here on the medial side as well as on the lateral side of the forefoot that is noticeable on the ball but not too much in the way of additional grip. For those that are big fans of the Flyknit days of the Mercurial series, that's a lot of what this upper feels like, but again, with the twist of a little bit of additional grip. Whereas if you're looking for as much additional grip as possible, look no further than the Phantom GX with its Nike Grip Knit upper. Technically the same name as the material on the Phantom Luna, but quite a bit different, where the entirety of the upper on this particular colorway, it's everything that you see in dark gray as well as kind of like this silvery color, that has a really grippy texture to it, that it's very noticeable on the ball. But what's nice about this is it's part of the material itself, so there's no additional elements on the surface to make for added grip, meaning that the touch remains relatively pure. There's no extra thickness to the material, and the end result is a very sock-like level of pliability. If you're looking for what is easily the most pliable upper within Nike's current lineup, the grip knit upper of the Phantom GX is definitely what you're looking for. Not really much in the way of extra padding, so again, if you're looking for that padded feel, these might not be the best option, but in terms of giving you a really high level of additional grip in an upper that just feels great on foot, the Phantom GX is excellent. With the GX also being available in a mid-cut variation, which gives you the addition of a Flyknit lace cover. However, this lace cover does not have the grippy texturing, it's just exposed Flyknit material, in turn really not resulting in any true benefit in terms of control other than covering up the laces, where I think one could argue that this is just extra material that's only adding bulk to the upper, but if you like the look of it, it certainly doesn't hurt the touch or performance in my opinion. Where if you're more of a leather boot person, historically the Nike Tiempo has been a go-to. However, for the Tiempo Legend 10 generation, the boot has gone full synthetic. No more kangaroo leather to be found. Instead, you're going to find their new Fly Touch Plus synthetic, which admittedly is extremely leather-like in so many ways. I would say compared to the Legend 9 that it replaces with its kangaroo leather and memory foam inserts, this is significantly thinner, but it is incredibly pliable and very leather-like in terms of how it moves with your foot, which is really, really impressive. The upside or downside, depending on what you like about leather football boots, however, is that these aren't going to stretch and mold to your feet like natural leather will. It just has more structure to it and just retains its shape a little bit better, which in turn does make for a lighter, more responsive feel to a Tiempo model, more so than we have arguably ever seen before. But you do, of course, miss out on that ability to stretch and give you that customized sensation, which might be one of the main reasons why you like to wear leather football boots. Nonetheless, from a touch perspective, it's very leather-like, extremely convincing, but definitely on the thinner side. And in terms of additional grip on the ball, at least on this black colorway, it does have a very grippy texture pretty much all the way through, providing more grip than the typical slick finish that you would have on a natural leather upper. But if additional grip isn't your thing, they do also offer this orange colorway for the Women's World Cup that does have more of a matte finish, that doesn't have any of that additional grip. So unlike the other boots from Nike, depending on the colorway, the grip level on the surface of the Tiempo Legend 10 does look like it will vary from colorway to colorway, but it is also nice that you do have some options. And just as an honorable mention, because I do think it technically qualifies as a top-end model, at least in terms of the materials used, the Nike Premier 3, which retails for significantly less than all the other boots at $110, does give you a partial kangaroo leather upper. And given that it does seem like kangaroo leather is going to be discontinued from the Nike brand, it might be that they're not going to be using natural leather at all moving forward. It's basically one of your last chances to get something like this. And as good as I think these football boots are from a value for money perspective, if you really just wanted the best pair of leather boots for the money, kind of unrelated to the video, but I'd probably look elsewhere and go for something like the New Balance 442 version 2 Pro. Amazing football boots for what they cost. But as it stands right now, if you want a current higher end leather football boot from Nike, the Premier 3 is your only option. When it comes to weight, the scale does not lie. So from heaviest to lightest, all in the same size 9.5 US, here are the weights of Nike's current top-end offerings. Starting with easily the heaviest boot in their lineup, the Phantom Luna Elite, weighing in at 8.3 ounces, the equivalent of 235 grams. That's followed by the mid-cut Phantom GX Elite DF, weighing in at 7.5 ounces, the equivalent of 213 grams, significantly lighter than the Luna. And then rounding out the bottom three, we have the Phantom GX Elite Lows, weighing in at 7.3 ounces, the equivalent of 206 grams. Followed by what might be a little bit surprising as Nike's third lightest football boot, the Tiempo Legend 10 Elite, weighing in at 7.1 ounces, the equivalent of 202 grams. That's lighter than some top-end speed boots, with the second lightest model being the Superfly 9 Elite of the Mercurial series, weighing in at 6.85 ounces, the equivalent of 194 grams. And then simply because it doesn't have the additional material from the collar, the lightest boot from Nike right now is the Vapor 15 Elite, weighing in at 6.75 ounces, the equivalent of 191 grams. When it comes to traction, you realistically have two main options within Nike's lineup, and that is aggressive or traditional. With the Tiempo stud pattern being classic Tiempo, bladed studs under the heel for great stability, and conical studs in the forefoot with those Mercurial-esque toe pick studs, so you get plenty of bite when pushing off, but in general, the rounded shape to these studs allow for better freedom to twist and pivot when your foot is planted, but still offer really good grip. Even though this definitely trends on the traditional side of things, this is a sufficient level of traction for just about anybody. With the Phantom GX arguably offering the closest thing to that of the Tiempo, and that you can see there are some conical studs incorporated into this stud pattern. However, the three-sided stud shape that's actually very similar to that of the Mercurial does overall still make this pretty aggressive in terms of traction. You have some freedom to twist and pivot, but in general, this is biting in just about every direction. Where one of the main marketing features for the Phantom Luna was the Cyclone 360 stud layout that you have here highlighted in neon yellow, where you have these 5 bladed studs kind of in a circular pattern that are supposed to prioritize that freedom to twist and pivot when your foot is planted. In reality, does it work that way? more so than I was honestly expecting, but because you have bladed studs throughout this entire stud pattern, it feels very aggressive, and I don't think that it twists and pivots quite as easily as the regular Phantom GX, as well as the Nike Tiempo. In fact, there's a pretty big gap between this and the Tiempo in terms of that stuck in the ground feel of the stud pattern. Nonetheless, this definitely compares most closely to the Mercurial series in terms of being very, very aggressive, with, again, a little bit more of a prioritization in terms of that freedom to pivot. But overall, super aggressive. And then there's the Mercs, where the Mercurial series has really been the gold standard of aggressive traction since the Vapor 1, and that's no different here with either the Superfly or the Vapor. These bladed studs offer really aggressive traction, where if you want to feel like you have as much grip as possible, look no further than these. When it comes to sole plates, or I guess more specifically sole plate tech, the Phantom GX and the Tiempo Legend kind of fall into the same category, in that there are technically certain things happening here, none of which are all that notable in terms of the actual feel of the sole plate, but what these do share in common is that they're both very flexible through the forefoot. So if you like that softer feel to a sole plate, you'll prefer these two over the others. Where the Phantom Luna is quite literally the exact opposite. Very structured and rigid through the midfoot and heel area, with definitely a lot more force required to flex this forefoot. It's also substantially thicker than the other two, and in general, if you like that solid feel to a sole plate, you'll like this one the best. Where the sole plate of the Mercurials legitimately has one of the most impactful technologies we've ever seen on football boots in the Air Zoom tech that basically runs 3/4 of the length of the sole plate, predominantly being focused in the forefoot in terms of what you can feel, but that zoom unit that sits directly on the underside of the sole plate makes for this bouncy level of cushion that you simply do not get from any other football boot, period. It's touted from Nike as a speed element, and I can assure you it's not going to make you run more quickly, but as a comfort element, it feels fantastic. And honestly, if I could take this zoom unit and put it in every pair of football boots I ever wear moving forward, I would definitely take that opportunity. It feels incredible. One of the coolest technologies currently in football boots. On feet, there is a pretty big difference in feel between the two Phantom options, both the GX and Luna in the mid-cut variations, Luna only available in mid-cut, feel astonishingly different. I would strongly urge you to try on both versions if you're having a hard time deciding between the two. And once you've done that, I can honestly see why 9 out of 10 people would probably lean towards the Phantom GX. This grip knit upper, despite both of them being grip knit and fly knit bases, just feels significantly softer and more pliable. And granted, there's a personal preference aspect to this in that the Phantom Luna does feel more structured and does kind of lean towards the fly knit days of the Mercurial series. So if you were a big fan of those, you might prefer the feel of the Phantom Luna. But if you're after that Mercurial-esque fit and feel, I would also just kind of lean towards getting a pair of Mercurials rather than these, but again, that's totally up to you. From a shaping and width perspective, they are virtually identical despite the women's specific fit and kind of design process that Nike is marketing with the Phantom Luna. These are virtually the same in terms of shape as well as width pretty much all the way through. And as far as sizing is concerned, both of these do run true to size. With the Luna, however, they have listed them in women's sizing. It's a pretty simple conversion to figure out what size you need. If you want to learn more about how that works, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen to my full review of the Phantom Luna, where all of that gets explained. And then we have what I would argue are the two most comfortable boots on offer from Nike right now in the Phantom GX Elite Low and the Tiempo Legend 10 Elite. I would argue that the Legend is probably their most comfortable top-end football boot at the moment, and that's down to this synthetic upper just being incredibly pliable and, like I talked about earlier, surprisingly leather-like. Not to take away from the Phantom GX, however, its Flyknit-based grip knit material is super pliable and very sock-like. So if you're looking for that sock-like knitted sensation that's become so popular, this is some of the best knitted material you're going to find on the market right now. Whereas if you want something that is leather-like, without actually being leather, of course, definitely what they have on offer from this Fly Touch Plus synthetic in the Legend 10 is extremely impressive. From a width and shaping perspective, again, I don't think there's a huge difference between these two, and that I guess would be my one criticism from Nike right now, where it feels like the Tiempo and both of the Phantoms have a very similar overall shaping to them, but they are going to be suitable for most foot types. I definitely think that if you have super wide feet, maybe these wouldn't be the best option just because you do have a little bit of tapering in the toe box and forefoot area, more so than I personally would like there to be. But overall, still very comfortable. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing both of them in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So true to size is what I would recommend for both of these models. Where the Mercurials, pretty much as they always have their own unique fit and feel to them. I might make the argument that I like the shape of the Mercurials more so than any other Nike model right now. It just seems to be the most well-rounded all the way through, or at least consistent in terms of width, and that you have similar width through the midfoot as you do in the forefoot, with a little bit more of a rounded shape to the toe box, which I personally find more comfortable. And in general, for such a tight-fitting pair of football boots, they are very comfortable. Obviously, that underfoot feel of the Zoom unit in the forefoot does make these distinctly different in terms of feel, and arguably more comfortable underfoot than just about any other football boot, let alone comparing them to other models in Nike's lineup. But overall, I love the feel. Obviously, this is a Vapor on my right, and this is a Superfly on my left. As far as that collar and what it changes in terms of fit and feel, pretty much nothing. If you like the collar, go for the collar, but ultimately it does pretty much nothing. And from a width perspective, these definitely have decent width to them for a pair of Mercurials, but if you've worn Mercs in the past, you kind of know what to expect. If you like that tighter fitting football boot, they are going to work well for most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, both are in the usual size 9.5 US that I wear, and as Mercurials pretty much always have, these do run true to size. So now that you know all the differences between them, how would I rank them? But before I do so, I want to be crystal clear in saying that there legitimately is not a bad choice amongst these top end options. They're all really solid in their own way, and you need to prioritize your own personal preferences when it comes to picking which one would be best for you. So with that in mind, in my opinion, of course, easily the worst top end option within Nike's current lineup is the Phantom Luna. And again, it's not because this is a bad pair of football boots, but it's because it's a pair of boots that does legitimately nothing better than any of the other options. If you're after additional grip, the Phantom GX gives you more grip. If you're after a thin touch on the ball, the Mercurial offers a better thin touch on the ball. It's $275 with no option for a low cut model. So if you like a low, these obviously are going to be out of the running. From a weight perspective, they weigh significantly more than all of their other top end options, and in general just aren't as light as I think they should be. And again, if you're after aggressive traction, I just think you get a better overall package with the addition of Air Zoom from the Mercurials. So why pick the Phantom Luna over a GX or a Mercurial? I'm not really sure. At the 5 spot, we have the Phantom GX Elite DF, the mid-cut version that retails for $275, and for that extra 25 bucks, the collar and the lace cover, in my opinion, benefit the football boot in no way whatsoever. If anything, because of this lace cover, the lacing system becomes even more shallow, which you could argue makes for a little bit less overall adjustability and a slightly less customized fit with the laces tied tight. I can't say that I experienced that in playing with these versus the low cut model, but personally I just prefer not having the collar, and I would prefer not having the extra material across the top of the foot. Everything else, however, is top notch, and if you do like the lace cover and you do like the mid-cut collar, then I definitely think it's worth the extra 25 bucks. Overall though, super solid football boots. The Nike Zoom Mercurial Superfly 9 Elite is an amazing football boot in just about every way. However, compared to the low-cut Vapor alternative, you're paying an extra $25 for this version to get a little bit of extra Flyknit wrapping the lower part of your ankle. This in turn does add a little bit of weight to the boot. Granted, that weight is insignificant, where honestly, unless you're playing on artificial grass, which you shouldn't be in the FG variation, definitely go for the AG model if that's the case. This collar can definitely help with keeping the rubber pellets from getting inside of the football boot. That's perfectly understandable, but if that's not an issue for you, I would just go for the Vapor over the Superfly every single time. Rounding out the top 3, we have the Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite. I know that there are going to be plenty of longtime Tiempo fans, including myself, that are disappointed with the fact that this new Tiempo strips away the kangaroo leather, something that has been a feature on the top end Legend since the Legend 1. It's crazy that it's gone, but what they've replaced it with, trust me when I say, feels remarkably leather-like. And from a performance standpoint, it's really, really difficult to criticize. I still think that if you really want a pair of leather football boots, you should probably look elsewhere. But what's nice about these at $230, they're already less expensive than all the other top-end options from Nike. But if you go for the Tiempo Legend 10 Pro at $140, it basically gives you 99% of the same experience. So if you're unhappy with a synthetic Tiempo but are curious about trying it out, basically for half the price of Nike's other top-end models, you can give it a go. I still wish they were leather, but objectively, this football boot performs pretty much as well as anything. With the runner-up, or in my opinion, the second best option within Nike's current lineup, and honestly, the football boot that I would personally choose to wear given the choice between everything on offer from Nike right now, the Phantom GX Elite Low. This grip knit upper not only feels awesome on foot, giving you a very comfortable sensation, and also one that requires no break-in time, but the grip knit material itself, the added grip that you get with no extra bulk, is super, super impressive and very unique to this specific pair of football boots. The low cut variation gives you full access to the laces that run just a little bit deeper than the mid cut variation. And in general, the low cut construction is just something that I'm a bigger fan of in terms of look as well as feel. But again, if you like the mid cut thing, go for the mid cut option. Overall though, in terms of its overall feature set, there's very little to criticize about the Phantom GX Elite Low. And then finally, at the one spot, perhaps unsurprisingly, the Nike Zoom Mercurial Vapor 15 Elite for $250. It is one of the most impressive technological achievements in football boot history. The performance is top notch, the feel of that zoom unit, the wrap of your foot from this synthetic upper, the responsiveness, the lightweight construction, everything about this is pretty much best in class. It's very hard to beat these if you're looking for something in the speed category, and in general, they're just some of the best football boots Nike has ever put out.